Hi, I'm Jean Shafiroff, and I'm on a mission. Anyone can be a philanthropist. My television show came from my book, Successful Philanthropy, How to Make a Life by What You Give. Won't you join me? Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff. This show is designed to highlight the work of philanthropic leaders here in the United States and then beyond. Today with us, John Bradham. And John is the co-board president of the Southampton Animal Shelter. Let's all welcome John Bradham.
Well, thanks, first of all, for having me, Jane. And I should say, I'm actually the co-president of the Southampton Animal Shelter with my good friend, Bo Holtz, and we work together closely. But yeah, I come from an animal family. My parents were both big animal lovers. My mom has a wonderful sanctuary in Hollywood, South Carolina, right outside of Charleston, called Halley Hill. So I sort of grew up this way. I grew up in a household where animals came first and came second, and then we fit in the kids.
Yes, and in my home, we have 5 rescue dogs, and they are like our children. Of course, I have 2 daughters too. John, with the pandemic, we saw a big rise in adoptions across the United States because many people were confined to their homes, and quite frankly, many people were very lonely. So adoptions went up. Is there a fear that when people go back in full swing to work, maybe in September, October, or November, that we're going to see owner surrender of pets?
Yeah, that's a big worry. And it's hard to know what the accurate information is now. We've probably all seen newspaper articles about this that are very worrisome. I've talked to different rescue groups I know, and they're experiencing different things. But it's certainly a real risk. And hopefully, it's something that those of us who really love animals can help out with, because your local rescues and shelters, they need you as fosters and adopters now more than ever.
Yes, and I think once you adopt a pet, you fall in love because a pet gives unconditional love. So hopefully, we'll see much fewer surrenders than expected because people don't want to give up the love they're getting from their pet. And I know in my household, our pets bring us so much joy. I could never, ever give one of them up. Now, John, you're very involved, as we said earlier, with the Southampton Animal Shelter. I'm also very involved. I'm on the honorary board, and my husband is on the board. And for all of us, it's a labor of love. And we have a big gala coming up that I want you to speak about, and I'm going to talk about it also. But how important is this shelter to the eastern end of Long Island? I say it's very important. But in your words, can you give the audience a little background on the shelter?
Yeah, I mean, the shelter is really important. It covers Southampton and numerous hamlets around there, and it's an open admission shelter. It means that we take anyone who comes, dogs, cats, rabbits, and all other kind of animals. The Southampton Animal Shelter, we are commissioned by the town to run it. So we're a nonprofit private organization. We receive a stipend from the town, but we're responsible for most of our own costs. So our unconditional love gala, which is going to be held on August 21st, is very important for us because that's a big fundraiser for us. And of course, last year we couldn't do it. So we're really hoping that this is a good fundraiser and people come out and support us. It'll be Saturday, August 21st on Pond Lane. And if you just go to the Southampton Animal Shelter website, you'll see it's easy to purchase tickets there.
Yes, and as the chairperson or the chairwoman of the gala, I want to tell our audience it's a lot of fun, and it's one of the least expensive gala tickets in town. And it's a very elegant party, a very beautiful party. Our furry friends that are up for adoption come out, a few of them, and it's a very important event to support because the animals are an extension of who we are. As Gandhi said, you can judge a nation by how they treat their animals. And I want to give the audience the website for ticket purchase. It's sasf.org. sasf.org. Now, for our audience, we are with John Bradham. He is the co president of the board of the Southampton Animal Shelter. John, getting back to you, you have this enormous passion for animals, and you mentioned it was something that started with your parents and the love that you received as a young boy from the pets in the family was something that was instrumental in your life. I'd like to talk a little bit about that love bond and how important it is for children, for adults that might be suffering from depression or post-traumatic stress disorder, and for our audience, for those who don't have pets, for them to understand the value of pets in the lives of so many hundreds of thousands and actually millions of individuals across the United States and across the world.
Oh, absolutely. It was very important to me as a child. When I was two, apparently, I don't recall this, but I was afraid of dogs. And my mom, who's a huge animal lover, wasn't going to have that. So she got a wonderful collie named Bess. And for those of you old enough to remember the story, Lassie, Bess really was Lassie. And she adopted me as her own puppy. And I really grew up with her. And I would say it made a huge difference in my childhood. And it caused me to really see how important animals can be to us in our sense of well being. And it's a lifelong bond I've had. But this is well documented. Animals help people dramatically, emotional things, physical things. And this is, of course, why so many people went off and got pets, dogs and cats and other animals at the beginning of the pandemic because it was stressful to them. So it's just something that really helps people. And I think it's something that really every family should have. I think for children in particular, growing up with animals is great because it also teaches them a sense of responsibility. I remember when I was a kid once and I came back from the country, we were out in the country and I started wolfing down food in the kitchen. And my dad said, "Well, wait a minute, you always feed the troops first," pointing to my beloved dog at that time, George. And of course I stopped and fed him first. And I was just a little kid, but it was a lesson I learned and remembered and I've never forgotten.
Yes, and the bond between individuals and families and their pets is so incredibly important and so strong. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the Southampton Animal Shelter. Many people want to be involved with the shelter, one by donating, and secondly, by volunteering. And part of being a philanthropist is giving time, knowledge, and available resources. And in the case of the shelter, we have a big volunteer program. And John, I want you to go into a little detail about what individuals can do as volunteers at the Southampton Animal Shelter.
Well, there are a lot of things you can do as a volunteer, and we like to let people do what they want to do and they're best skilled at doing. I mean, what most people do is they come there and they walk the animals or they spend time with them because we want our animals to have human contact because they're in a shelter. And so for a lot of these animals, this is not normal for them. They want to be with a family. So, for instance, we have cat rooms, and people will go in there and you don't walk the cats, but they'll spend time with the cats, and people that walk the dogs. But there's certainly other things that people can do depending on their skill set. We've had people come to us before that were experienced in carpentry, and that's what they wanted to do. So it's really up to the individual what they want to do. But the point is, we're a community shelter, And we want the community involved. We want people to come. We want them to bring their kids. We want them to volunteer and be part of it.
Yes, and then you have the opportunity to foster a pet. And many people do this before they actually adopt. What is the adoption process like at Southampton Animal Shelter? Is it
Well,
easy to adopt?
yeah, you make your, let me emphasize your point about fostering. That really is important. I mean, fostering is a lifeblood of every shelter and every rescue. It is really important because what happens is you need to have a place to put all these animals, and sometimes our physical capacity or that of a rescue is limited. So having people foster them is really important. And it also is helpful for the animals too, because obviously the animals need to be accustomed to being with people. And then it gives people a chance to see if they really want an animal or if this animal makes sense for them. So it's really important. As far as adopting goes, we have an adoptions program. And if you come, you can go online or you can come there and you can find an animal you're interested in. You can meet them. And if you want to adopt, you just fill out an application. It's a pretty easy process. And the point is, we'll be your partners. We'll help you. You know, we don't just say, here's your cat or dog or rabbit, good luck. We stay involved with you. We have trainers, we have a wellness clinic with vets. So if you have problems, we're there as a resource.
And that's really wonderful. Now, if someone has adopted a pet and say they've lost a job and they're having trouble feeding that pet, I know during the pandemic or during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the shelter had a food bank, a pet food bank. Is that bank of food continuing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want pets to stay in place because we think it's good for humans and the pets. So the best possible result is the pet stay with the family or the individual. And if they need help, we have a food bank. We also have a very low cost wellness clinic. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure your pet stays with you.
And that is so important because once a family adopts a pet, of course, that family wants to keep the pet. And if there are financial considerations, it's very nice to know that the Southampton Animal Shelter, based in Hampton Bays, will help that family keep that pet by providing dog or cat food or whatever type of pet they adopt. Now, for individuals who've never had a pet before, what are some of the guidelines, the quick guidelines, especially now that we're in the heat of summer? Can you give guidelines for proper care of a pet?
Well, it depends on the animal, and of course, dogs and cats and rabbits are different, and we occasionally have other scaly or furry creatures too, guinea pigs and such, and lizards. But we have a whole staff that's got a lot of expertise on this. We've got trainers, we've got vets. So we give people when they adopt or foster guidelines on what that particular pet needs. And of course, the needs of the pet vary depending on the pet. For instance, seniors have different needs than juniors. Um, but we tailor it for the individual very much so. And then if there are questions, we're there as a resource.
Yes, and sometimes people need a little guidance, especially in the heat of summer. Number one, you shouldn't keep your animal in a hot car. The same way you wouldn't keep a young child in a hot car when you go off to the supermarket. You wouldn't keep your pet in a hot car. Number two, if it's very, very hot outside in the 90s, you probably ought to bring your pet inside and keep around plenty of water. And then number three, during firework displays or loud noises, pets get very frightened. So it's a good idea to try to keep your pet away from loud noises. And if you happen to be around loud noises, make sure your pet is leashed because pets often, a dog or a cat will run away. It's called the flight or fright response. And that's a response that's in reaction to loud noises or anything that would frighten a pet. So, if you want to keep your pet with you, you don't want to lose your pet, you really have to take care of your pet. And in return, if you give your pet love, you're going to get so much love back. Pets don't answer back. Pets give unconditional love. So if you're kind, they're more than kind back. John, as we continue with this interview, I want you to talk a little bit about a few things related to animal care or the animal world that are really, really important to you.
Well, I think that there are a lot of important things. I mean, the points you just made are exactly true. I mean, during the summer, a hot car is a non-starter. And your pets, I think some people don't realize who are not experienced with pets that they have the same emotional and physical needs that we have. So they get hot, they get cold, they feel lonely, they get scared, and you just have to be aware of that. Now, people make mistakes. We had animal control bring a dog into the shelter recently that had heat stroke. It had gotten out. It was a big dog, heavy dog. So, we met with the owner and we educated him on it. It was all fine. We're not here to condemn people. We're here to help them. But in terms of, I guess for me, what really, bothers me the most, I suppose, is when people tell me that they've gone to a puppy store and gotten a puppy or a kitten, because if you do that, you are buying a puppy or a kitten from a puppy mill or kitten mill or a large scale breeder. And it's really as much time and emotion as we put into this to save these animals, to be supporting these horrendous puppy and kitten mills, which by the way are not what they advertise. They're cruel places. It's just really wrong and not necessary. And I think there's this belief among some people that, well, I want to get a purebred, so I need to go to a breeder or a pet store. Well, that's just nonsense. 25% of the animals in the shelters are purebred. And in fact, these animals that are raised in these puppy and kitten mills are more likely to have problems because of all the inbreeding and the mistreatment of the animals. So if there's one single thing that matters the most to me, it is adopt, don't shop.
And I could not agree with you more. Adopting a pet and giving a homeless animal is a wonderful thing to do. And as I mentioned before, in my home, we have 5 rescue dogs, and each one is very different from the other, and they bring us so much joy. And the puppy mill situation in the United States is really awful, and we need to make sure that we reduce the number of deaths at shelters, at city shelters across the United States. And we do that by adopting and also through spay and neuter programs. And for our audience, we are with John Bradham. He is the co president of the Southampton Animal Shelter. And John is a man very involved with animal rights, animal charities. He's a real animal advocate. I also call myself an animal advocate because I'm involved with quite a few charities, on boards of charities related to animal care, including being on the honorary board of the Southampton Animal Shelter. And I consider the Southampton Animal Shelter one of the finest shelters in the United States. And if you've just joined us, John, I'd like you to talk to those who've just joined us more about the upcoming gala for the Southampton Animal Shelter that will take place on August 20th,
Yeah, well,
2021.
yeah, it was Saturday, August 21st, starting at 6:30 p.m. on Pond Lane. It'll be a beautiful event. It'll be all outdoors, under tents. It's going to be, an all vegan event this year, all plant based. We have spent a lot of time coming up with a great menu. The food's going to be delicious. And it's always a fun event. We have auction items, and I think people are hungry to get out after the pandemic, and this is a great way for them to, get out and have some fun. It's going to be outdoors, so it's safe, and it's always a really fun event.
And as the chairwoman of the event, I guarantee that you are going to love this event. It is one of the most beautiful events in the Hamptons, and it's all in honor of our furry friends and the Southampton Animal Shelter and the wonderful work they do. And to purchase tickets, the website is sasf.org. And those initials stand for Southampton Animal Shelter Foundation. So if you Google Southampton Animal Shelter Foundation, the website will come up right away. And John, we have just a few minutes left. And as we move into, we're not there yet, but as we move into the cold weather, I would imagine you give the same advice about keeping pets indoors when it's freezing cold. I don't espouse to the idea of keeping a pet outside for long, long periods in cold weather. As you mentioned earlier, the pets get cold just the way we do. They have emotions just the way we do. And also during a rainstorm, I think it's a very cruel thing to keep an animal outside in the pouring rain. Bring your pets inside. So, John, as we end this interview, what final words would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, first of all, I'd like to disagree with everything you said. And I think the way people should think about their animals is what's comfortable for them is comfortable for their animals, probably. Animals don't want to be out in prolonged cold weather or hot weather. The other thing people need to think about is many dogs and cats are afraid of thunder. So you need to be sensitive to that. So for a dog to be left outside in a thunderstorm could be a really terrifying experience. But I think what I'd like to emphasize is, first of all, I hope everyone will come to our gala on Saturday, August 21st. It is always a very fun gala, and you will be doing a lot of good, and you'll have a chance to meet many of our furry friends. And whether you can come or not, we hope you'll come by the shelter and visit with us and visit with our animals. And it's meant to be a community shelter, so you're welcome to come hang out and just spend some time there. But I think we've touched on the important things. I mean, it's really important to adopt, don't shop. Every time you adopt a rescue animal, you're saving two lives. You're saving the life of the animal you rescued, and you're opening up a spot for another animal. And it will be, I can tell you, I think it'll be one of the most rewarding experiences of your life, because they will give you back tenfold the love you give them. And
Yes, and adopting an animal is a true act of philanthropy and a true act of kindness. Thank you very much, John Bradham. You've given a wonderful interview. And I want to thank you also for the fabulous volunteer work you do. You are a true philanthropist. This concludes Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff. I'll see you next week.
The Southampton Animal Shelter Foundation is going into their second decade. We are an open admission shelter. We take in animals regardless of age, breed. They could be owner surrendered. They could have medical problems. We see the light come back into the animals' eyes when they come to our shelter. Giving them that love and support, they really become the animals they should have always been. We offer medical care not only for our animals, but also for the public. We have a pet food pantry when an owner is in need of food. We are going into the schools with our Humane Humans program. We are helping veterans find their companion animals. Our work in the community is endless. Our success speaks for itself. We place over 800 dogs, cats, and small animals into homes every single year.
In May of 2016, I was in a car accident. I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD. I decided to adopt because I really needed to take myself away from that and do something selfless, and that was what led me to Southampton Animal Shelter. There were these two little baby tuxedo cats, and they were reaching for us and crying. And then when they got put in with us, it was just like that. They were mine. The cats brought me a sense of peace. I would wake up and I would just feel good and ready to take care of them and ready to go about my day.
Georgia was a long-term resident at the shelter. She wasn't one of those happy dogs that was wagging their tails. She was actually afraid of strangers and quite reserved.
It was not your average adopter that was going to take Georgia home, and we knew that.
She walked up to me and sniffed me, and I was talking to her, and then she put her head on my lap. I think they were really surprised that she took to me as quickly as she did. The director of training, Deborah, said to me that you're her only way out of here. She gives me lots of joy. I love the dog, and all I want to do is give her a great life.
Yes, I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
I drove him secretly to the animal shelter, and when we pulled up and he saw the sign, he looked at me and he said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, you said you've been saying you want a dog." And so they brought him out, and as soon as they brought him out, he said, "He's really cute." So when we would leave the house, he would just whine and moan. I said, "I think he needs a pal." So I called again, and they sent me pictures of Barkley. And so I made sure they both got along, and when they did, I sent him a video of them playing in the backyard. And he said, "Oh my God, he's really cute too." And then he said, "2 dogs, I don't know. And then he fell in love. Now he wants 3.
You can count on me, 'cause I can count on you.
Dogs are pack animals and they want to play, and giving them the availability to do that at a shelter is incredible. We are very lucky to be able to get our dogs out to playgroup. There are some dogs that need maybe more training, some more help before they go into a home. And with what we have at the Southampton Animal Shelter, we are able to give that to those dogs.
My name is Amy Sadler, and I'm the founder and CEO of Dogs Playing for Life. Everything that we do was born at the Southampton Animal Shelter. So we used playgroups to make sure everybody at least got out, and then I could identify which dogs needed more targeted training. And since then, our whole motto of every dog, every day, that we are teaching shelters all over the country, we learned that all here. This is where it started.
We are already getting every dog out of its kennel every day, going to playgroup, running with their friends. Dogs Playing for Life is coming back to the Southampton Animal Shelter Foundation after 10 years, and we are excited to bring our playgroups up to the next level.
Southampton does an amazing job, but they can't do what they set out to do without donations.
When I look at an animal's eyes, I see potential, I see love, I see companionship.
By adopting my 2 kittens, I was able to really move forward in my life. I'm so thankful for that.
Come down and spend a day with us and you'll fall in love. You'll see how the animals are treated. You'll see the care that our staff, our medical team, our adoption coordinators, everyone goes 110%, and it's just incredible.
You know, people always say, "I rescued a dog." Really, they rescued us. I love Southampton Animal Shelter, and everybody should go. That's all I'll say. Go get a couple of dogs or cats.
You put your arms around